Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our very first Scale Up Africa Survival Series webinar. I'm going to first start by just saying thank you so much for all of our speakers for giving us their time to share some really great tips for SME during this crazy period that we're currently going through. So I guess before we kick off, we could just do a quick round robin. But before we start, can I just do some quick housekeeping? So if you're not speaking, please put your mic on mute because there might be some background noises that will kind of filter through. We have two other speakers who will be joining us very shortly, so do bear with us. Also do bear with us because this is the first time I'm using this platform and there might be some hiccups, just letting you know. My name is Olivia Asiedu-Ntow. I'm one of the co-conspirators of Scale Up Africa, and I also run a management consultancy called the African Connection Agency. I will throw this back to my co-partner, Amma Gyampo, for a quick intro, and then we'll do a round robin as to who's currently in the room online. Oh, Amma, we can't hear.
I'm the founder of AmDeCo. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me. Great. Morning, everyone. My name is Amma, founder of and generally I'm an entrepreneur.
It's cracking up. It's going on waves. It's cracking up a little bit.
In the African ecosystem, supporting African SMEs.
Try that again. I think the line's a bit unstable at the moment. Try it again. Okay, we'll. No, you've gone silent. I can't hear you. Wait. Okay, we'll come. Oh, say something again.
Let's try with the rest and let's see how that goes. Is this better?
Yeah.
Any better?
Yes.
Sounds better. Oops, lost you again, Amma.
I think we've lost you again. Amma.
Let's do the time, include some extra capacity on my laptop. Let's do the rest. Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to do a quick intro, and then we'll skip right back to Amma. Hopefully the network will be better then.
Right.
Okay, I think you can hear me. Can you? If so, hi everyone. My name is Amone Bedama, and I work actually at Facebook on a product that we call Workplace from Facebook. And the best way to think about that is that it's a version of Facebook that's available to businesses to use within their own four walls of their organizations. One of our most notable customers at the moment is actually the World Health Organization. So they use Workplace as a way to communicate, make sure that they're getting messages across their organization quickly, keeping their employees safe, giving them advice about what's happening on the ground in the different countries that they work in. I like to describe myself as someone who builds things. I've always liked building things, whether that was, radios actually when I was very young and a lot geekier, or whether it's businesses, which is more what I do now. So I'm excited to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So should I actually pass over to Ruddy maybe?
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Moni. I appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ruddy Kwakye. where do I start? Okay, my name is Ruddy Kwakye. I run an agency called the Rave Group. We're a multi-sector agency through digital, experiential, creative, and media. And also I have a platform called Muse Africa. We're trying to build Africa's biggest youth engagement platform for news, content, engagement, fun, and all of that. And I love events. I'm only builds things, I build experiences. My last experience was actually the Afronation Ghana, which happened in the past December. I'm super excited about Afronation 2020. So I hand over to Grace.
Yes,
Yes,
good
please.
morning,
That'd be
everyone.
awesome. Thank you so much, Ruth.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for this brilliant opportunity. Very interesting try and get set up on this one. So my name is Grace Elizabeth Anim-Yeboah. I love to be called Amazing Grace. And I belong to an organization that connects the dreams of entrepreneurs to their realities. Absa Bank Ghana is a financial institution that brings possibilities to life. And I believe strongly in the possibility of Ghanaian SMEs becoming transnational and transgenerational once again. I'm also the co-founder of a church called Destiny International Covenant Church and the co-founder of a school, which I started with my first son.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Thank you, Grace.
So handing over
We have,
Um,
yes, please. Thank you so much, Grace. Appreciate it. Einstein, if you could do a quick introduction of yourself, that'd be really great.
Fantastic. Well, hi everyone. Great to see some familiar faces and lovely faces. My name is Einstein, Kofi, and Ntim. I'm the managing partner of the Africa Future Fund, which is a $20 million fund to invest in advanced tech companies across the African continent. But more relevant to this platform, I'm the CEO of the Global Startup Ecosystem, which is the first virtual accelerator and virtual programs for Africa, the Caribbean, and industries like space. And GSC is also the platform that has brought to you events like the Ghana Tech Summit, Haiti Tech Summit, Space Tech Summit, Africa Future Summit, and a whole slew of other programs like that, of that nature. But prior to becoming like a platform curator myself, I started my own company in the UK, which is called Enabled Health, which is a mental health facility to tackle mental health issues within the UK, and other startups like Enabled AI, Bloomer Tech, and other platforms and such. So just a quick introduction of myself, and hopefully I'll be able to delve in a lot more deeper through the coming hour. But great to connect with all of you.
Thank you, Einstein. Really appreciated. We have also Akua Owusu-Nartey on the line. Akua, could you do a quick introduction, please?
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Akua Owusu-Nartey. I run Ogilvy and Mather across multiple markets on the continent. I'm an ad girl. That's what I like to call myself. I started advertising in 2005 thereabout, and I haven't gone back. I am sure I'm going to change careers at one point in time. I've always thought I would be a psychologist at some point in time in my life. So you never know, I might be a shrink one day soon. I run a team of creatives, and the one thing that I love most about them is just the resilience and the diversity in the thinking, and just being able to bring brands alive for all our clients. And for me, it's my first love. And it's really great to be here to share some of my experiences and how we could help other SMEs and other businesses just make sure that they stay afloat during these really difficult times. Pleased to be here. Hi, Amma.
Thank you, Akua. Hi, Amma.
Hi. Is that better? Can you guys hear me?
Come back to Amma. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, great.
Yes. So do a quick intro, and then we'll head to Jason and the last lady's name's forgotten.
Marcia and
sorry,
Einstein's on as well.
Yes, and we also have Jason online.
Great.
Emma, do you want to do
good morning, everyone. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the glitch earlier.
Olivia, Jason is set as an attendee only. So if you could.
because he's on the list here
as a
as
panelist.
Panelist.
He's a panelist on the control panel.
Yeah, he's on the control panel as a panelist. I don't really understand how this is working. Apologies. I did apologize in the beginning of the, it's a learning curve.
That's fine. We're adding as we go along. So good morning, everyone. My name is Amma, Gyampo. I'm part of the ScaleUp Africa team, and I'm the founder of AmDeCo. And our prime mission is really to support African entrepreneurs everywhere. So whether in the diaspora or on the continent, the whole point for us is really the passion to put out information and content that is helpful, that is practical, and that is relevant in all times, but especially now. So that kind of drove our planning for ScaleUp Africa in terms of offering content and access to people like those on the panel to just dive into the way that we do business and the way that the future looks. And so that's me in a nutshell, but we'll talk more about what I do and some of my views on entrepreneurship on the continent as well. So welcome and thank you all for joining us as panelists and attendees as well for signing up. Thank you.
Thank you, Amma. Appreciate it. Jason, if you can hear us, please give us a quick introduction.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, welcome. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, hey, I'm Jason. Yeah, like I said, I'm Jason. I've been in the industry for about close to 20 years. I started out at Saatchi, Originate, and I moved around a lot ever since. So advertising is my passion.
The line's pretty bad.
Yeah, so let's just talk and get on with it. Currently, I'm CEO of StoryTellers. We do campaigns for a few brands in Ghana and outside Ghana. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I think you might be on mute, Olivia, actually.
Olivia. Okay, so has everyone done their introductions? Because I had to hop off the call for a minute there. Yeah. Has everyone done their intros?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're still trying to get Marcia as a panelist, Olivia.
I've sent her an invite. I'm just waiting for her to join, really.
As a panelist, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll start because I think, so if you can work with Marcia to get her on, then we can start the conversation because we're running into 15 minutes already. So is that all right, Olivia? Yeah.
The invite's been sent out again. I'm going to link her in again. So let's start. Oh, she says she's
okay.
On. Wait. I can't see her. Sorry, apologies.
Okay, great. So guys, we wanted to just talk through some of the priority areas for us today. The first one is really, just the risk factor of this crisis that we're facing at the moment. The International Labour Organization has kind of given us some scary statistics about the potential of 25 billion job losses globally because of this crisis. So what can we as a private sector do to minimize the impact of COVID-19, especially in emerging markets? How can we as small businesses link up with larger corporations to really connect with, on the value chain front and the supply chain front? That's one element of it. The second element is obviously, mental health. A lot of people are isolated at the moment. It's very difficult for a lot of people, especially where we come from and where we're active, to really understand this new digital world that we're really fast, approaching into. How do people adapt? How do people cope? How do people manage? The third piece is obviously communication and stakeholder management as well. How do we communicate with our banks? How do we communicate with our stakeholders, our clients, our customers? How do we, look out for new opportunities and, may have been on your blind side in pre-COVID times. And so we really want to delve into the fact that, there's a lot going on globally, regionally, here in Ghana, West Africa, East Africa. There's a lot of innovation going on. We've seen, can you hear me all right? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Yes. We've seen, the likes of Mercedes-Benz, making ventilators. We've seen the likes of, hotels becoming quarantine centers. What as an SME or an entrepreneur, how do you position yourself as an essential service? Can you transition from essential to non-essential to essential, and how do you keep yourself relevant through a time like this and to get to the other side? And so I really wanted to just delve in straight away into our first set of questions with the panel in terms of a lot of feedback that we've had and concerns from the SME community about, you know, how to deal with the banks, how to deal with the cash reserves that you have, if you have any at all. How do you get through this moment in time from a financial point of view? So I'd love to speak to Grace. If Grace is still on the line, I can't see Grace, but is Grace still on the line?
Yeah, Grace trying to get back.
I think it's just Grace at the moment, but that's fine. So I mean, from a strategic point of view, I think it would be great to hear from the panel about best practices that you've seen abroad, even locally more relevant. How have you yourselves had to build resilience into your own businesses, and what have you observed in the private sector strategically in terms of shifting their focus to help more SMEs in particular, but the business community generally, to become more resilient and maybe to have more alignment in terms of partnering up there's a supply chain and that kind of thing. So Marcia, maybe you can speak to some of that issue from a strategic point of view. You represent the Boardroom Africa, and I know you just joined us quite late. So maybe you could do your introduction and tell us a bit more about what you've been doing with the research and recommendations that you put out for governments and donor communities, but maybe tailoring that a little bit more towards the SME and business communities in terms of your view from the boardroom, as it were.
Thank you, Amma. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clear.
Great. Sorry about that. It was a bit of an issue with transferring me to panelists, but I'm glad to be here and joining you all in this session. A very important session indeed. My name is Marcia Ashong, and I'm the founder of the Boardroom Africa, and our goal really is been around for just over 5 years, so it's still fairly early stage company, but our goal has been to plug the gap of diversity right at the top, because our focus has been primarily at the board level. So we have curated a network of women who we bring together across diverse sectors in the industries, whether it's, you know, for-profit, non-profit, listed, non-listed, all companies across the continent and beyond. And what we do is champion them and provide them access to board opportunities across the board. So we work really mostly with investors who are looking to find diverse representation for the boards of the companies that they invest in, but we're also kind of cut across the gamut, whether it's investors or non-investors alike. So, you know, I think you know, amid the grimness of this pandemic, in terms of our experience, we've had quite an opportunity to experiment and to re-explore how we gather and do business in this new world. Traditionally, we've had a very strong mix of both online and offline solutions, but given the restrictions on gathering due to COVID-19, we've had to place greater emphasis on providing online offerings as part of the work that we do. And also experimenting to find formats that best suit our community's needs. So we've expanded our webinars, such as what you guys are doing. We are enhancing our existing platforms to be able to cater to online learning beyond just the in-classroom pieces. And one thing that we've discovered is that a lot of the
network is pretty bad.
Can you hear me? Is this better?
It's very clear from where I'm sitting. It's good.
So what we've gathered also is that there is the women in our network are a specific cohort. They are leaders, and leaders in particular during this period are struggling with not only maintaining our workforce, keeping morale, but also are put in this position now to be strategic thinkers when typically they are on the go and they're often in their operational mode. So shifting now to the strategic thinking part is exactly what we've been trying to support them with. How do you innovate through this environment? How do you keep staff going even when you really can't afford to keep them going? So what have some organizations been doing? One example being they've some CEOs or MDs or just leaders in general have reduced their salaries in order so that their employees can be sustained. So it could be a solution of across the board salary reductions, or it could be a solution of just people at the top really saying that, you know, this is a time, this is crunch time. We are either business owners or people who are trustees of the business. So let's put our own life on the line for those that really come to bat for us on a daily basis. It is about stepping outside of your current modus operandi, especially if you're a customer-facing organization. If you can't really step out there and do your work in front of your customers, how do you utilize technology as a solution for that purpose? So it's not necessarily to say that you need to move to become a tech platform, but no, it's more so utilizing technology to get you to where you need to go. So in our position, for instance, we do board training programs, which we started to put together as a quarterly offering, but that has now been put in a position where we are having to rethink how we do that. Or is it something that's going to be a long-term issue, or is it a short-term concern? Should we consider online offerings? How do we sustain an audience for hours on end as an online offering? So those are all the different things that I think, I mean, in terms of our experience, we are doing, but for the long haul, I think businesses in general should start considering.
Great, thank you so much, Marcia. Obviously, technology is a massive part of this conversation now. Everyone is looking to technology, not everyone's very comfortable with it. So we have Amoni from Facebook and Einstein here from the global startup ecosystem. So I'll probably start with Amoni to just figure out what you know big tech is doing to help small businesses, especially in this region. I know Facebook's doing quite a bit in terms of free content and free resources and stuff like that. So maybe you could speak to the practical stuff that you've seen, even beyond Facebook and across the general tech ecosystem, to make sure that you know, people who would have been beyond the reach of this new digital world are kind of embraced into it, and how you're doing that.
Yeah, sure. So like I mentioned at the top of the call, I work on a basically a business version of Facebook, which exists within organizations. And I have to say, you know, I entered 2020, I think like a lot of people, with a very clear plan of what I wanted to achieve. I had all my New Year's resolutions. I had my plan for my business as well. And then, of course, a few weeks into the year, everything has changed very, very materially. So whatever it was that I felt my customers' needs were are very different now. And I, you know, probably like most people, don't really like change, especially when it comes from outside my own control. A lot of what I've been doing in the last few weeks is adapting to that change mentally, changing the plans that we're rolling out, but also really supporting my team and the people that I work with through that, and by extension, the customers that we serve. I think the biggest thing I would say is, and we spoke about this a little bit earlier and before everyone else joined the webinar, everyone will kind of judge their suppliers, their employers in terms of compassion going forward. So it's really important that the decisions that you make, you really take into account not just how they affect you, but how they affect your employees and how your customers and your customers, and just make sure that you're showing care for each of those groups, I think is the first thing I would say. In terms of technology, you know, Facebook in itself is doing a number of things to support small businesses. This is a global effort, but it's worth taking a look. There are a lot of resources available to help small businesses to think and plan through this period, which you can go online onto Facebook, Facebook Business, and actually download those resources and have a look through. They were also putting some funding on the table for businesses, up to 30,000 businesses, I think. So actually, I'm sure you can imagine that's quite a big, that's not that big a number in terms of how that might apply to Ghana, but there's no harm in trying and putting your name out there to qualify for that program. Technology is definitely our friend, and I know everyone has different levels of comfort with technology, but I would say certainly mobile money is, if you don't already operate in that space, you should. I've seen all kinds of creative ideas emerge over the last few weeks. Somebody was telling me that she signed up for a makeup tutorial one-on-one, paid for it on mobile money. And I'm sure I'll be tapping into that soon, because I don't know what I'm going to do with my hair or my eyebrows while we're on lockdown and I'm trying to social distance. So you can be creative about some of these things. Definitely lean into the businesses and the sectors that will do well in this time. And I think it's fair to say that telcos are really helping to keep businesses connected. I used to work at Vodafone in Ghana actually a few years ago. I know that this will be important to them and also to MTN and the other operators. So look, I've spoken for a bit there. I hope some of that was useful, but certainly what I would say is lean into technology. YouTube has lots of tutorials. If you're not comfortable with technology, you can get up to speed fairly quickly with the tutorials that are on there. And first and foremost, just be compassionate.
So talking about compassion and sanity and mental health, I think that's a very important. These are very important topics at this time. So I wanted to kind of hand over to Einstein, who will probably talk more about what he does and what he wants to share with us today.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's really good. Can you hear me?
Einstein, just as a time, we're nearly at 11:30, so we have half an hour left to do the whole kind of webinar. So if we can keep all of our answers to between 2 to 3 minutes, that'd be really helpful.
This is going to be answered questions. It's quite precise. Yeah, it was really great insight being shared, and I would say that what this pandemic has revealed is that revealed the issue that's already been there for quite some time, which is about being digital. Right? When we started the GSC, the whole goal was to first of all take access to people who traditionally would not have that access. So for me as an entrepreneur, I went to Silicon Valley to raise capital for my startup. But if you're an entrepreneur in Ghana, in Haiti, in Nigeria somewhere, how many people can go across to places that kind of get that capital? So the goal was to bring those resources and those networks to people where they are, which is why digital became such an important component. And I would say that for most companies and most startups out there right now, reach out for advice, reach out for support to become a much more digital induced business, to become a technology-based business. And oftentimes people don't realize how much the big corporates do that. So right now, for example, we're working with Forbes, New York University, and other platforms to help create digital platforms, digital accelerators, digital programs for what they're trying to achieve. But yet startups and people out there will just be there thinking, okay, what do I do? So reach out for advice, reach out for support, because now's the time to start finding out new ways to figure these things out. And I just say that, for example, with us, we had the Her Future Summit, which is a program that was meant to empower women across 7 cities. And all these things were planned to happen in New York, Dubai, London, San Francisco, DC, London. And all these things were planned and prepared in advance. But then this pandemic hit, and we had to literally take the entire program and bring it all online, and which caused us to learn to adapt to the situation. And from that situation, we actually end up making more gains and having a much wider reach with a program that came online than even some of our in-person huge summits, right? So us, a digital company and technology company, had to learn to adapt to what's taking place. So I just advocate and tell people to really find out, how do you become a digital company? How do you become a technological-based company in a time like this? And you do that by, reaching out to people who've done it before and just getting advice on that landscape to make it more possible. All right. Now just on the digital question right there. All right.
Thanks, Einstein.
Okay,
so tell me a bit
just
more,
before we move
Ruddy,
on,
about
the network is a little bit, it's slowing and cutting through. So it's saying if we can turn off our webcams, it will be a lot easier for people to hear. Because I'm noticing a number of people aren't able to hear what we're saying. So maybe we turn off webcams for now, and then it's a lot easier to, okay.
Okay, thank you. So,
Okay, sorry.
is that good?
Yes.
Are we good to go? Right.
Yes, we're good. People can hear.
So Grace, I really wanted to hear from you about your you work for Absa, big banking group, you work in Kovet. We'd love to hear a bit more about what you've been doing as a big business and as a bank to help SMEs navigate through this crisis. Grace, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So thanks for the opportunity and lovely insights, coming out here. For me as an individual and for our bank, COVID has been a real eye-opener to the theory of readiness compared to practice. And I recall one entrepreneur saying to me, I don't know where to pass. That kind of sums up the experience of when your outlets run dry. What do? You've got temporary closures, redeployment of stuff to other areas of focus. How do you serve your customers? If they always came to you, how do you get to them now, quickly and flexibly? So adaptability and extensive process reviews in the organization is key to building resilience. I resonate with what Amoni said about compassion and care, and empathy for our customers and also for their employees in the organization. So there have been very significant steps as an organization we've taken under the leadership of our MD, Mrs. Abna-Osei-Poku, our Managing Director. A number of very clear initiatives to observe social distancing and keep colleagues safe, but also implement safety measures within our banking halls and our customer touch points to ensure that we're keeping our staff safe. We're also keeping our customers safe, But in all of this pandemic as well, it's important to keep focus, because you can easily lose focus in the midst of this, but keep focus, get a grip on your business, understanding where the opportunities lie and what you need to do differently, to be able to still serve your customers and at the same time keep the business afloat. It may mean a reduction in size, but how do you stay afloat until this is over? Because this will pass, and you still need to have a business that is running, once this is past. So happy to go into further details around the house, Amma, around the next round, because I'm mindful of Olivia's caution on the time we stick to the answering of the questions.
No, it's fine. If you can actually share, because I think we will be a bit pressed for time, because there are, we are past 11:30. But it'd be great for you to share specifically maybe your top 3 tips on what SMEs can practically do to just navigate this period, because a lot of them are not equipped to actually manage crisis or change, even in normal times. So much less now. What would be your 3 practical tips for the SMEs that you work with, and what would you like to share on that front?
Thanks, Amma. So the 3 practical tips I'll talk about. Number 1 is your cash or your cash flows. It is the lifeline of your business, and you've got to watch that line very closely. Conserve as much cash as possible. The next 90 days is all going to be about your cash flows, your liquidity as a business, your receivables, your customers who are due to pay you. You need to understand how that is working. So staying close to your customers, talking to them, understanding how they're impacted, understanding what's keeping them up at night, and even asking how you can support. Maybe you could have, a solution that they need at this point in time, which is not the regular solution that you give to them. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Very clear. Grace? Okay, I think we've lost Grace. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
It's good.
Can anyone hear me on the call?
We can hear you, Grace.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Thank you. So
we can.
I was talking about the cash flows. Conserving the cash flows is the first and most important one, and staying close to your customers will help you drive that. Also on your employees, I mean, how do you reframe in such a way that you are more efficient? The third point is around leadership. Everything rises and falls around leadership, and it's important in this time to keep focus. Look at the decisions that you're making. Don't let fear drive those decisions. Keep a clear head. Regardless of what's going on around you, it's important to keep a clear head, not allow fear and instability to drive your decision-making process, because that will help you challenge yourself. I mentioned employees briefly. I'll tell you a story. Now, in this crisis, in my team, I have a crisis response team that cuts across all levels in my business unit. And just bringing not just the leaders, but other members of the team into the ideation process, into how we navigate as a business through this. You'll be amazed at the ideas that come. Your employees have brilliant ideas. This is not the time to let the business revolve only around you. This is the time to actually pull them in. This is the time to get them involved, because we're only together. I mean, if the company goes down, how are they going to get paid? So everybody coming to the table makes a big difference. Those are my three. Amma, thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, Grace. Very good insights. And so I think at this stage we'll hand over to Olivia to talk more about stakeholder management, brand, and communications, because that's also very important at this time to communicate very clearly with your audience and your community. So Olivia, over to you. And yeah, thank you. Thanks again, Grace.
Amma, is it possible?
Thank you, Grace, and thank you, Amma.
Sorry, Marcia.
Sorry, is it possible to just really can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Say that
Marcia,
again.
go ahead.
I was just saying that if it's okay to just quickly add another point to what Grace just said, and to say that yes, the short-term measures are great, but also while it is imperative to ensure that the immediate measures are put in place, it is equally important that we set aside time to strategize and prepare for post-COVID-19 environment, right? So how will lives and livelihoods of the clients change in the long term? How will current product offerings change? Are you ready as a business for any upscaling of your activities as a result of the new environment that you find ourselves in? So supply end might boost up in a very short period of time. Can you be able to ramp up manufacturing to be able to meet that? And also thinking about what short-term relief efforts that you need as a business in the interim to ride your way through to where you're able to sustain yourself to that point where you are ramping up business. So looking at appropriate financial institutions, what they are offering for SMEs. I know a lot of government initiatives are being put in place right now. I know the NBSSI is also thinking about relief for MSMEs. There are banks that are now being fully mobilized in order to provide support for short-term relief, so such as loans and grants. I know institutions and donors, multi-donor institutions, DFIs are all ramping up activity to provide short-term measures. So how can you as a business take control of your environment now and access these type of relief efforts? I know that a lot of them are still trying to find ways to turn them into emergency funds, and there are issues of bureaucracy that's right now still stopping them from moving from an emergency from business as usual to an emergency situation. But I know a lot of organizations are working with them, but really taking that step back towards reflecting on what is happening now, but what can happen in the future, and how do I prepare for the future is also quite critical. So I just wanted to buttress Grace's point. It's really critical. Cash management is essential, but also thinking about the future. And like she said, bringing in groups of people who aren't necessarily your core team of decision makers, bringing them into that fold is essential.
Thank you so much, Marcia. It's all very pertinent things you've pointed out. I think to move swiftly into the comms and marketing area, one of the things that most big corporates or even SMEs do in a time of a time of lack is to retreat. And we all know that if you do that, you're not literally able to communicate or see how you can buttress what your brand means to your stakeholders. So I'd like to throw it out to our marketing and comms panelists, Akua, Jason, and Ruddy, in terms of, as you're running your agencies within this mist, what are some of the advice that you're giving your clients in order to continue to communicate? What kinds of things are you communicating to them or advising them to do during this period? Sorry.
So can I go? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So the way I've looked at it with a lot of our clients has been that, think about it this way: when our parents would say you need to study hard and you do well in school, and if you study hard, when you grow up, you can have a big house and you can have a car, and it's almost like the things you do now have a huge impact on what happens in the future. And that's a very, very typical situation we are in now. Now, what you find is there are a lot of brands that are commercializing this. And that's the first thing I tell my clients not to do. This is not something you commercialize and make and try and sell all your products on, because what then happens is that you're seen as an opportunist. At this time, you have a lot of people who are struggling. They have worries about their jobs, their security, they have mortgages that they can't pay. There's a lot of uncertainty that's in the consumer's mind today. And so anything you send them that's not reassuring or is not supportive or enabling in any fashion does not necessarily help them. So for big brands, there are a few things that we would say you should do. The first thing is show empathy, and that goes to Amoni's earlier point, and show care. And that's just by giving them the tips, the support, and even from a product level, you could show care from a product level. So it could be just recalibrating your products. And you'd find that some banks have had to take some of their charges off or reduce the charges on transactions. And that's a way of showing care. And then you'd find that finding the right partnerships. I think that one thing that I say to a lot of brands today is that you can't do it alone. Not one single brand can solve this. So it's about finding the right partnerships to begin to shift the needle. And so is it a matter of saying, listen, I do X, you do Y, and he does Z. How do we work together? Because the thing is, we want to stay alive. That's pretty much, that's a very short summary of this. We want these brands to stay alive to be able to sell tomorrow. So thinking about it in the long-term measure, you shouldn't be too individualistic. You need to be saying to ourselves, how do we bundle together as brands to kind of work towards the future? So I'm not saying that competing brands bundle together, but that would be a great thought. But is how do we do this together to kind of make a difference? And lastly, I say to a lot of our clients, it's hard decisions, lots and lots of hard decisions. So for example, at Ogilvy, we started the work from home around the 16th of March. It was tough. My team was really saying, no, we can't do this. It won't work. And so by the time we knew we were going to go on lockdown, we had been working from home for almost a week. So it was being a bit out of the curve. But what that helped us was we weren't just thrown into a sudden space of confusion. And it was a really tough decision to make. And as a group, all the agencies began to do that across the region. But it helps. It's really tough decisions, but just being able to make those choices now, but having a long-term view in mind. So those would be some of the thoughts and some of the things that we're telling our clients today, just in saying that you just need to show a lot more empathy and care. And if it's a product thing, it needs to be something that's relevant and not something that is a hard sell.
Good. Can I go?
Yeah, I presume so.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ruddy.
So that's the big, when the big sister speaks, we all need to pay attention. That's for big brands. But for me, it's one rule. See, in times like this, it's speak when spoken to. If you don't have anything meaningful to say as a brand, you are probably better off not talking at all and just observing, because it will cost you more speaking than if you don't speak. So the thing I've told all our clients, and we shared with them, is whatever messaging that is coming out, just make sure that it is something you truly mean, because this is also the period where consumers are actually very sensitive to messaging that is coming from brands. They will suss out who is being fake, who is being real, just from your opening line. So if you really want to communicate or talk to customers, really say it in a way that you mean. If you don't mean it, get out. It's not because COVID is here, it's a disease, we are a cool brand. No, this is actually not the time that people look for cool brands. We look for empathetic brands. We look for communication that is actually real and communication that people feel that you mean. So for me, if you really need to open your mouth, just make sure you're saying the right thing. Or it's probably great to observe, and let's make sure that, you know what, yes, we are here, we are, it's business unusual, but at least we are here. It's better that way to find your voice in this whole craziness than to just open it any way you want. And I also want to, the first submissions, just wanted to chip in something, even for small businesses. It's actually time for us to ask big questions of ourselves. All of these reliefs that have been put in place by government, by institutions, do you know that you cannot access this if you do not have written down plans? So maybe this downtime is actually your uptime for writing down these things, because you can't accuse people of bureaucracy if you don't come with something that is sensible. This is the time that you actually need to write it down. What is my business about? Who's my customer? It's not because I got a PO, I got a contract, and I put up a team to deliver it that matters. No, it's about what is the soul of the thing that you're trying to do. And you can't access all of these helps if, again, the sensitivity, I'm back to that word, if you are found to be opportunist, or if you're found not to be sensitive to the things that you are even professing that you do. So use this period, find your soul. I'm done.
So just kind of circling back on the point that Ruddy made about if you don't have anything to say, keep quiet. I think it's a brilliant idea, because you would rather be caught not, because in 6 months, we're all going to be saying, oh, did you see what this brand did when COVID was there? And that would become the new meme. So Ruddy, I think that that's really, really valuable to all of us.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. That's absolutely spot on, and actually just dovetails quite nicely in terms of looking at companies such as StoryTellers, where they're looking at how they create compelling stories, but using digital as a main portal. So if I can hand over to Jason briefly to give us some of his insights in terms of what you're doing within storytelling and also using digital as a main portal.
So what we're doing within storytelling.
Jason, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is find brands that have a relevant message in these times. I think what's happening and I think it's more African than global, is that brands have forgotten their position as opinion leaders and entities that can change culture. If you remember 1971, Coca-Cola's Hilltop song came at a point in time when the whole world was in crisis. There was the whole racism thing. The world was pretty much going to shit. So it's at times like these, you need brands that have a strong message of hope, of unity and the likes to stand up and convey that message. The government's going to say what it's going to say, but the main conversations are going to be carried by brands, and brands shape culture and opinions. So I agree with what the previous guys have said in terms of you don't have anything to say, keep quiet, but there's something to be said. And there's a message everybody is looking for in the midst of all these crises, in the middle of all these videos and stuff going around. People are looking for a message, a unifying voice that says something that inspires them. And what we're trying to do at StoryTellers is find brands that are brave enough to voice their messages, you know, and not in efforts to make a sale or a quick buck, but the human truth. All brands at core have a human truth, some that they believe in, and that's the story we're looking to tell at StoryTellers. Sure, does that answer your question, Olivia?
I think we've lost Olivia. Thank you so much, Jason. That's a really great point. So Ruddy, can you tell us a bit more about you're a small business and you're an entrepreneur yourself. Can you tell us a bit more about how you've managed to build resilience into your own business and what you've observed from the community?
So, I mean, the good thing for me was mentally, I was shaped on this journey. So it's adversity is strength born. So every time I look, when these challenges come, that's really how I've always taken a look at them. Even within this period, I mean, we're literally shut down. Experientials were the first things to go when this thing came because of social distancing. So I have a friend who literally had almost $1 million worth wiped off because everybody called in the same 24-hour period and shut it down.
Right.
What do we do with this period? We're actually rethinking everything that we do. We are asking ourselves, this thing has forced us into second life mode, which has been something that the nerds have been trying to get us to do, which is have these digital experiences, have these conversations. Right now, it's a daily practice. And I've had the chance to observe it up close. My wife works with a multinational, and she literally sat down one day and it was calls from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and it was back to back to back to back to back. So I was sitting there from an entertainment perspective, what could we do? Then you started to see all these Instagram streaming events coming up really with the kind of swell that needed to be. And I started to ask myself, where's the brand integration in all these conversations? So how do we start to create these experiences for brands to talk to these people who are now getting really a taste of probably some things that a lot of us have been trying to get them to? So it's asking the business some existential questions. Would we be the same when this thing is over? Are we going to be able to see 60,000 people at the beach over 4 days? No. But if we don't get there, how do we get 100,000 people to stream in, and what infrastructure will be needed to do, and what kind of new partnerships that we would need to form to be able to get these experiences going? So period is being spent really to focus on what this will mean if it continues, and from the things that you'll be reading, a lot of research I've kind of been reading, and it's telling you that pandemics are probably going to be a commonplace. Like the next COVID will be arrested in a month because we would know what to do the next time around. Just like all the other quote unquote pandemics that have come in the past and gone. Every time we learn and we adapt. So if we adapt and lifestyles changes, if consumer behavior changes, how do we continue to serve them in a way that keeps us relevant and also keeps our business alive? Those are the things that I've spent time doing in this period, and that might.
I like what you said about finding your soul earlier. You need to find the soul of your business and start planning now for the other side. So I have a general question, one last question before we go to a presentation from Einstein. In terms of linking up big business with small businesses, what are your specific suggestions or recommendations on how big business can link up with small businesses to cross-pollinate and work more seamlessly together in future? Grace, maybe you can speak to that as a big business representative. Are you there?
Sure. I'm happy to go first on that. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Go ahead.
So and thanks to earlier speakers. I particularly like the conversation around partnerships and what the future is going to look like. And you're right, getting yourself organized as an entrepreneur at this time is very important. One, yes, even for the payment holidays that have been announced and all that. How do you get into that? Because it's available. You've got to have yourself organized to get into that. But in terms of private sector, getting more participation from SMEs, I think this is obviously a very good opportunity for us to look at that. And one way that I personally find that helps is, a lot of the private sector, larger entities, especially the multinationals, usually have certain standards, some of which may not pertain to the local environment. This is a good time to begin to look at those, as long as it's not compromising on quality, but there may be some conditions that preclude or, leave out local SMEs from participating in the ecosystem, whether on the supply side or the demand side, so looking at that from the private sector is important. And just by way of an example, right, even though it's from a funding perspective, but there are a few other examples that I've seen some multinational corporates that is adding value, and we need to ramp up on that to have a greater impact across larger communities. So, I mean, if you take Absa Bank, for example, formerly Barclays, I mean, we would have thought that this entity could give SMEs unsecured facilities, but we sat down and took a close look, at our framework and said, how can we be more relevant to this burgeoning sector of the economy, which we all believe and claim is the engine of growth? It's the largest employer, second to government. There's so much more we can do to provide stimuli into that sector. So we looked at it and discussed very clearly and agreed on a framework to proceed with, with all the risk elements well considered. And we're able to give up to 500,000 cedis to entrepreneurs without collateral and without financials. How do we do that? We were bothered enough to take a look and see how we can be practically useful, in what we do in our sector. So I think beyond that as well, even in our supply chains and all that, we take a close look and say, how can we get local entrepreneurs who deliver quality solutions to actually participate in this ecosystem? It requires a lot of deliberate and intentional, planning. But I must say that also on the entrepreneur side, I mean, especially if you want to deal in highly sensitive sectors like oil and gas or mining, for example, where safety and controls are critical, you can't be like a daisical about how you approach your controls. You've got to get yourself in order, so that when you get contracts, you can actually deliver and be able to grow in that. And I think that these conversations that we are having will also drive the consciousness of our SMEs, especially those our guests who are actually listening to this webinar, but also begin to drive a little more impetus in the private sector around an intentional, relevance that you want to place on the local SMEs and how we can actually let them also get access to contracts to participate. And it can even be training, through training. I mean, you pull them in and provide some practical training on the requirements and so on. And that goes a long way. We do SME clinics. We're setting up an academy for entrepreneurs just to upscale and build your capacity and your capability. I'll just give an example of an agri-based entrepreneur who decided he wanted to play in a certain market. He had to subject himself to quite a long range of assessments. But once he got that out of the way, he's playing in that market and he's scaling. So there's investment required on the SME side. I think that private sector is also ready to support, really.
Right. I think a lot of people are looking for, short-term magic wands, and there isn't one. I think it's a combination of what everyone has discussed, in terms of readiness, preparation, being a bit more observant about the potential opportunities, what is essential, where is the growing demand, and how you can actually prepare yourself to get ready for that. So I think to anyone who's looking for a special, one size fits all answer to how do we survive through this thing, there isn't one. I think it's just a matter of doing all the right things to prepare for or to regroup and to prepare for what is to come in future, using technology, using networks, using partnerships, and proper planning as well. So we're going to hand over to Einstein and Tim now for a short presentation, and then we can then go to some Q&A before we run out of time. So Einstein, are you ready?
Great. I'm going to try and flip us all back onto webcam for a moment. Let's try this again.
It's trying to do the screen share bit. Is there like is there a way to share screens?
Yeah, it should be on the panel.
How do I do that?
Can you share screen, Olivia?
Sorry, give me a moment. So, trying to figure out where that would be. Audio, no. Sharing. Okay, here we go. Okay, so change presenter to.
Is this not that? Yeah, cool.
Is it doing it?
Yeah, it's doing it. It's perfect. Okay. Super. Nah, right. Just to kind of get about 5 minutes, kind of share a bit of insight of what we're very on the call. Spoke a bit about myself, but what's unique about what's happening right now for me is, even though I'm running a fund and being the CEO of GSC, even myself, I've had to like relinquish a lot of my roles right now to focus on enabled health, because that mental facility is in need of more support. So in terms of being able to adapt to what's taking place, it's important to do that no matter what situation is happening right now. And just very quickly, right now, say people, before even this crisis took place, right, people in the world were already going through a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, a lot of issues already prior to this pandemic, right? There was issues around depression, unemployment, bankruptcies, and much more, right? Even as somebody who's in the mental health space, example, like every 42nd, somebody in the world died from suicide. And they said that by the year 2030, the biggest disease in the world globally would be mental health, and suicide will be the biggest killer of people by 2030, more than heart disease, cancer, and the like, right? So all that this crisis has done is showcase to us, it just exacerbated issues that were already bad to begin with. And I do recognize that it's a unique time for everyone in the world right now, but we have to recognize it just revealed what was taking place in the world right now. Even things like our medical health professionals and our doctors have been the highest rate of suicide out of most professions in the world right now. So there is a fundamental issue, and what this crisis has done for us to look at the fundamentals of how to really improve the world, our lives, and how to go about things very, very differently moving forward. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is by the original Einstein. The quote is, "Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one." What that means is that many of us can go through different experiences and yet have a different outcome from it. And how we view the reality is would shape what goes on in our next action items and our next steps, right? And one of the remarkable things I'm seeing right now with this pandemic is we've never had a situation in the world where the human race had one singular enemy. Right? It's never happened before, where you have 200 million physicians, scientists, nurses working together on one issue. And the only time we've ever seen something similar-esque was during the space race in the Apollo missions, where we had a huge amount of solutions and innovations come to the world because we're all focused on one thing. And what I'm seeing right now, it's also a remarkable time for all of us to really build our network and connect with people. I've reached out to people who were friends, enemies, allies, people who had even not reached out to many in the past. And it's a rare time for all of us to connect with other people and do so in a very unique and sincere way, and form new ties, bridge old ones, and improve what we're doing with our networks and our connections overall. All right. And even more remarkable what's happening right now, even though this pandemic taking place, it also creates compelling opportunities for all of us, right? The stock market right now, it's shattered. But for those who are in the financial markets, we all know it's a great opportunity to start buying assets right now, right? For me personally, when I was at university, right, I actually paid for my uni education by trading on the currency market. And that was post the 2008 financial recession, because the markets were so volatile that you could get involved in it with no experience, with not much capital, and still be activated in that place. And we all know that after the crisis that took place in 2008, there was a birth and a boom of crazy revolutionary business models, like companies like Airbnb, Uber, Groupon, WhatsApp, Venmo, Slack, and many, many other companies that started and created new business models because of what happened with the crisis, right? So even though now we're about to probably enter a huge recession, it gives an opportunity for something that we can call the roaring 20s, which could potentially uplift our entire society going forward. And as I'm bringing this to a very short close, one of my favorite books of all time is a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. He's a Nazi Holocaust survivor, right? And he said in the book that the people who survived that Holocaust were not the people who were the best looking or the smartest or even the strongest. They actually were the people who were able to find meaning for the suffering that was taking place. So right now, the best thing we can do as individuals is to find some kind of meaning in what's taking place right now. And this could be a good time to create new habits and new traditions, you know, improve our sleeping pattern, start exercising a bit more. And there's different, I've got some links to platforms we can tap into that can help people to improve their fitness and their well-being. Meditation, you can go use Calm as a different app you can use to do so. Even things like our traditions within our families, connecting. I mean, right now, I'm in London right now, and I've gotten much more close with my mom, my dad, my wife, my kids, spending time with people in a unique way and learning things that I would not have like known about beforehand. So finding meaning during a time like this is very important. And above all, it's an incredible time to reinvent yourself and reinvent your business. How do you take what you're doing right now as a company and make it digital? If you're able to digitalize your business, you can then dematerialize things, demonetize things, and democratize things, right? So we know the digital camera literally digitized the entire film industry. Netflix digitized Blockbuster, Google digitized the library, and right now Zoom and GoToWebinar are digitizing in-person meetings right now. So as a company right now, we're working with brands like I mentioned before, Forbes, New York Times, and New York University, and different platforms to help them become much more digital-based companies. And I said before, prior to that, like for me, we brought this to reality with her Future Summit, which was meant to take place in person across 7 different cities, and we were forced to take this online and actually make more gains than we've done for most of our programs, most of our in-person programs. So you can actually use this time period to really form a new business structure for your company and your organization, even your personal life in that sense. And I'll end this with a quote by Dr. Frankl himself. It says, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, is to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance, to choose one's own way," right? So we can approach this pandemic and this crisis and find a way to reinvent ourselves and reinvent our lives and our businesses in many ways. And for those online, if you can, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very, very active on that platform. And check out our website, globalstartupecosystem.com, for different resources as to how to really become a digital business and find all the resources that's taking place right now in the world that are helping companies and people in a time like this. All right, thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you so much, Einstein. That's fantastic. And I think it's a great way to end the call today. But I think, you know, the key takeaway is really to be in a planning phase. Deep reflection is very important. Looking after yourselves is extremely important. Communicate with your banks, your creditors, your debtors, your staff, your suppliers, all those who are surrounding you as a business, as an ecosystem. Reach out to everyone and be very clear about your personal situation and see how best to, you know, reduce your costs, reduce your overheads, and figure out how you can plan towards the future post-COVID-19. Olivia, do you have anything else to say?
I just wanted to add that, you know, you don't have to have all the answers right now, and that's the beauty of the situation we're in, is to just collaborate, take some time out, and this is the best time to start, you know, dreaming big and seeing where your business or your organization could move to as an SME. So you don't have to have all the answers now. There's lots and lots of people out there that are working together, and I think that's the key thing moving forward. It's about collaboration, and that's what we all need to do.
Just to interject there, I think that this is also the best time to think partnerships, not competition, because you know, when Amma was saying talk to everybody, your suppliers, I think the first person you need to talk to is your competitor, because you both are in the same space, and each one of your businesses may have a strength that you can combine to create a whole. I design experiences. If I'm not designing, the guy who owns the gear is not getting hired. So what if he and I came together to stage one? I will do the production, you bring the gear. Aren't we making money? Because the consumer is going to come back hard, hungry for something. And I can't serve that thing because my finances will be bad. I can't hire you because you were probably in the same thing. So I think competitor conversations is even much more critical now. It's not, it's partnerships, it's collaboration, not competition. Because if we all don't survive, there's no business for all of us.
Okay, true. Extremely true. Is Akua still on the call? I think we'll take some final round of comments and final tips. So thank you so much, Ruddy. Grace, do you have your final comments? Can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. So I do so agree with what Ruddy is saying about collaboration at this time and not competition, because that is so critical. There was a note on Einstein's presentation that if you have a product that is not working, this is a good time to kill it. I think that's the other side of the reality. This is a good time to make some very clear and emotional decisions about what's working and what's not. So that's really one of the things. And then the other thing is around, a key topical issue that keeps coming up for a lot of our SMEs, where, the owner, manager, or founder, director is the alpha and omega of the business. If he's not there, the business doesn't move. I think this is the time to begin to learn to also delegate and build capacity in your businesses. This really is the time to give people a shot at doing some of the things that you do and see how they come out with it. This is the time to begin to spread, because that's how you will grow. As one person, one entrepreneur, you're only limited to your own capacity. But if you give other people the opportunity to do different things, they also begin to expand you, and you have the multiply effect. So those are the thoughts I'd like to leave here.
Thank you so much, Grace. Einstein, final comments and insights. We're wrapping up.
I would say, like I mentioned before, firstly, now's a remarkable time to reach out to people who've been supportive of you on your journey and connect with people and form the 20/80 rule, right? 20% of things that help maximize that help scale things rapidly, right? I've connected with my mentors like Tim Draper, Peter Diamandis, and even people who I hadn't spoken to, reached out to in years, and go on calls with many people and just catching up with them. And that's formulated a whole new different approaches, right? So the same way right now people are going through very tragic situations, some people are winning, and I'm proud of that. Some people are winning right now in a time like this, right? So how do you change your reality right now? And that goes by changing your perspective, right? Reaching out to people for help, reaching out to people for support, reaching out to experts, but on top of that, understanding that in this time period, we can find a new way to go about things. And 20/80 rule is very important to help you achieve that goal. So thank you very much for this. I can see you guys.
Thanks for joining us, Einstein. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Is Akua on the call? Akua,
yes, I'm here.
Hi, Akua, any final comments?
I think the most important thing, well, not the most important thing, but one of the important things to do is invest in our people. And I think Amazing Grace touched on that. And investing in our people, and also kind of beginning to work on a mindset shift for our people. A lot of the time, they think that you are the boss and you run the business. But the truth is, will this business be here 6 months from now? And if they begin to think like that and have an owner mentality as well, this business is all of us. It's all our livelihoods. And one person who earns money from a business probably takes care of another 10 people. So it's kind of looking down the line and saying, what does this business mean to me as an individual, and what can I contribute to this business in this time of need? So maybe it's just inspiring our employees and inspiring our team members and letting them kind of begin to recalibrate the way they've seen the businesses that they operate in and say, you know what, the reality is we are in this together. If I drown, you all drown. But if we swim, we all swim together. And maybe that's one thing that we can begin to do as leaders within our organizations.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, I couldn't agree more. Marcia, are you still on the line? Jason,
yes,
are you still on the line? Oh, Marcia's still here.
Yep.
Great. Marcia, your final comments, please.
Yeah, so I think it's been lots of really good insights from the panelists, but I think one of the things that I wanted to stress out was keeping teams really highly motivated during these times, because we are going to need them, whether it is low productivity now, but in the future we will need them. So keeping work environments high and productive, over communicating around expectations of team members, having routines that keep team members accountable to tasks even when we can't see each other, enhancing that usability of digital media and digital means, being intentional about creating psychological safety nets across team members so that they feel comfortable to raise flags and concerns, keeping teams motivated and engaged by celebrating successes even during these down times. But I think another thing that I wanted to stress out is that this is a time for innovators. In a post-COVID era, we will be faced with the likelihood of more of such future pandemics. And I think it is time that, and it is only reasonable that we imagine that in such an interconnected world, these outbreaks are going to be more of a likelihood than not. So this means innovating and anticipating what's to come. We already know that hygiene standards will likely improve across the globe as a result, one of those silver linings that we've all been talking about. So what are we doing as entrepreneurs, as innovators, to address this gap in the market that's likely to come and that already exists? And so far I've seen, things that are popping up like hands-free door openers. In Ghana, we've seen young engineers developing electronic buckets for washing hands. There are 3D printing options that are coming up for developing such things as ventilators. So the question I guess we should ask is, are there new innovations that we should develop locally with global application that we can start to think about? What do airports need, for instance? How about electronic means of checking temperatures to avoid human contacts? How about isolation units on planes where there are people that are likely to be sick in these really closed environments? So I think beyond just thinking about how do we protect ourselves today and how do we support our teams, how do we ensure that people are mentally capable of withstanding these tough times, we have to move beyond that to also think what's going to be needed in the future. How do we innovate, and how do we use technology to innovate ourselves through these pandemics in the near future? How do we quickly revamp our manufacturing capacity? For instance, if you're a garment manufacturer, can you quickly switch to developing PPE equipment for your local hospitals or your local healthcare providers? These are all considerations that I think as a nation, but more importantly as entrepreneurs and as innovators, we should be thinking about. But thanks for this session. It's been great and insightful.
Thank you so much, Marcia. Thanks for joining us.
I think we might have run out of time. Apologies. But if we could do a quick, we're supposed to do like a quick Q&A session, I think, because there's a lot to kind of unpack and discuss, and obviously the time is very short, but it will be great to be able to connect a number of the different attendees with a number of the speakers, because they have some specific questions to ask. So we might be able to do that over the next course of the next couple of days, to be able to share and connect you with these attendees, so you're able to kind of assist on a one-to-one sort of basis. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been very, very insightful, and I hope we're able to do more and more of these, because it seems like it's something that people are really looking for and kind of need in this time of complexity. So without ado, I think we're done.
Thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate it, and do follow our social media for more updates. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you,
take
guys.
care. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.